This is VolcaKnowledge, the podcast where we explore how volcanoes interact across nature, culture, and society. I'm your host, volcanologist Sam Mitchell, and every episode I'll be joined by a new guest to get their unique perspective on the world of volcanoes and geology through the eyes of art, history, media, education, industry, and so much more. If you're watching, thanks for watching. If you're listening, thanks for listening. Remember, you can catch all of our episodes on many streaming platforms. Let's go and meet our guest. Enjoy the episode. So in the world of science, how we visualize scientific concept either on paper or online is really important, and so this covers the area of scientific illustration. It really is quite an art, and it's very important to help the general public and also scientists engage with scientific concepts. And this is very important in volcanology, geology and earth science because it is such a visual landscape, and sometimes it's things that we can't always see with our own eyes. It might be things beneath the ground. So I'm really excited to be joined today by PhD researcher in volcanology and scientific illustrator Annabelle Foster. Hi Annabelle, thank you for joining us on VolcaKnowledge today.
Hello, thanks for inviting me.
No problem at all. Really excited to talk about this topic. But before we jump into that, two quick fire questions. First of all, favourite volcano or volcanic site?
Okay, well, that has to be, maybe you visited this place, don't know. It's called Husafell in Iceland, and it's this volcanic site that's been dissected by a river, so you can really see all of it, really, from the country rock to the center of the volcanic deposit to everything around it. But the most special thing about it is there's two geothermal hot pools right by the volcano, and you can just sit in them, relax, and look at all the volcanic rocks around you, and it's gorgeous. I can't beat it.
Amazing. But not only have you got a great view, but a great place to sit for that great view.
Exactly. What you want, isn't it? Really.
Exactly. Great. So, well, that's quite a hard place to top. But then, secondly, if you had a particular volcanic place you've always wanted to visit, where would that be?
Um, it's gonna be. I guess this is quite cliche for a volcanologist, but maybe Stromboli because it erupts often. I just wanna sit on like the side of a mountain and watch a volcano erupt.
I
Um,
mean, as cliche as that sounds, that does not sound like a bad idea to me either. So,
yeah, yeah, that's
yeah,
it's
that
fascinating to us. So yeah,
yeah, you can never bore of a site like that.
yeah, especially the ones in Iceland like goes off every year now. That's so interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's really, as long as it doesn't impact communities, if it's in one of those places which is far away from populations and there's the opportunity for people to go and visit, then as long as it's safely done, then fantastic. It's a fantastic way for people to visualize things. And that's actually a really nice segue because sometimes we can view these things in person and we can get images and recordings of them, but we don't always have that opportunity. And also for understanding how things have happened in the past or how things happen underground, one thing we need are really good sketches, drawings, and schematics. So now that would be a really nice place to segue into. Let's talk about your journey into volcanology and scientific illustration.
Oh yeah, so well, volcanology firstly, that I just loved reading geography books, geology books on volcanoes, natural hazards, really interested in the processes behind them. And that was from like 12, 13, and didn't think it was a job that I could go into, but I came across a website called USGS, which as a geologist we all know what it is, United States Geological Survey, and it came up as a job, like being a volcanologist, that you could do this, 9 till 5, although it's not quite 9 till 5. Um, and yeah, so that's sort of how I got into that, and I did geology A level, then just a normal geology bachelor's degree. Then I went off and did a master's by research in volcanology and stayed on to do a PhD. And then I guess alongside that is where illustration sort of crept in. And I suppose it started at the end of my bachelor's degree. Um, and that was just through studying. I found that I really needed to draw diagrams to help myself absorb the information. Um, then, and then there was a period between my bachelor's and master's where I wasn't doing geology anymore, and I was missing it, so I just started doing doodles, um, and that sort of got a bit of hype around them. But then like it's definitely like ebbed and flowed going into illustration because like there was there was the time when I was uploading stuff like on the internet and then I suppose what really got me into it was my supervisor who was writing papers and he would ask me to do some illustrations for him for certain hypotheses. And then I was like, I love doing this. It's felt like such a challenge in a good way. Um, and again, I guess a bit like going into volcanology, I didn't really realize it was a career until a few people who had been academics for a while had told me that actually people have done this in the past and still do scientific illustrations, and lots of journals hire artists and illustrators.
Amazing. So really quite a path. So were you artistic before, like when you were much younger? Had you always been into drawing and sketching, or was that something that came about during your geology degree? Because someone with a geology degree myself, I'm not particularly artistic, but it's something we have to do in the field. It's how you
Mhm.
remember things that you've seen. You have to sketch, and I'm sure we've all seen that there are various levels of people's ability to sketch things in the field. So I'm curious if you actually have an artistic background or not.
Um, I suppose my artistic background goes as far as a GCSE in art.
Okay.
I never took it further. But as a child, I was always drawing. Um, so it was, yeah, it wasn't any. I've never like done anything technical or gone on courses. It's just a hobby, really.
Yeah, but I guess if you have already that inherent passion and like, and if particularly with art, it's something that can calm people, it's something that enables us to engage with different parts of our brain. So if you can enjoy that along the side of also learning about science, and it sounds like you're also quite a visual learner from what you said. So if making a good sketch helps you better understand a concept, then it's only going to want to increase your, I guess, your need to sketch better.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the thing is, there's always new science coming out as well that don't have illustrations to go alongside them, and probably should have them. So yeah, I love all that really.
So is that something that you saw, when you started getting, say, more into your degree and the world of research, is almost a lack of scientific, like seeing good illustrations and, being appreciative of that, and then either seeing really badly done illustrations or complete lack of.
Yeah. Oh really, there's definitely so many good illustrations out there. Like the branch of sedimentology I find have like really good block diagrams where you can see all sorts of processes going on in one. Um,
Mm.
and that was really inspiring doing geology at undergraduate level. Um, but yeah, there's definitely, it gets to a point where you just don't know what things actually really look like. And also sometimes you need an illustration for your hypotheses to make sense. They can really show like the plot holes in your science. Um,
Yes.
so yeah.
And so, in terms of actually drawing these, so a lot of scientific illustration, of course, now is digitally printed. Um, it's probably decades since real hand drawn illustrations and schematics were put into scientific research papers. So everything has to be done by graphic design. And having seen some of your illustrations myself, it's very, very high quality, high detail graphics. So, as well as art, did you have any background in graphic design, or is that something new that you've had to pick up as a skill?
Yeah, something new that I had to pick up. I got it all started from getting an iPad and I downloaded Procreate, which is it's
Mhm.
essentially just like drawing on paper but on an iPad, and that was a really good, natural, and intuitive way to get into graphic design. Um, and then I've like learned like the Adobe suite on top of that, like Illustrator and Photoshop, which are slightly more of a steep learning curve, but those two I felt like go really hand in hand together.
Yeah, similarly, I made that jump as well to try and start using Illustrator and Photoshop, and it did take a bit of time, but now that I have that, it's applicable to so many different things, and you might have certain templates, I imagine, that you use for certain things as well.
Yeah, even for just like editing graphs to make them look a bit prettier. Like if you use Excel to make your graphs, they don't spit out the nicest looking graphs. So you can just save it as a PDF, put it on Illustrator, and make it look pretty. And so it's really
See, there we
useful.
go. So, I'm curious because this is something that I've done as well. So, I used to hand sketch and rough sketch my any say figures, like particularly schematic figures showing a volcanic process, geologic process. I'd hand draw it, nowhere near as good as you would be able to, but just roughly the dimensions and what I wanted to show, and then I would scan it and then put it into Illustrator and kind of almost trace over the top of it. So I'm curious, is that something you do, or do you just go from scratch digitally?
Oh yeah, I have to draw it by hand. Yeah.
Okay.
It that just helps. It's like information dumping onto paper. And the first sketches always look terrible. And I get nervous sharing them because they look so bad. You wouldn't think that I had any artistic abilities whatsoever. But yeah, I definitely I go through a few drafts on paper, and then when I feel ready, I will scan it in, or you can use like your notes app on your phone to scan a piece of paper into your phone, and then I like airdrop it on, and yeah, then
Okay.
I start. Sorry, yeah, then I start going
Because
into it digitally.
because even though this is very like little bits of process, I think it's important for people to hear about, because sometimes, all, as you say, all you see is the final product, which takes hours and hours and of work and various iterations and drafts and redrafts and files named final underscore dash two dash one dash this is final.
Yeah, yeah, people shouldn't be scared really for things to start off. I mean, things start off from nothing, just an idea in your head, and that takes some time getting to the final thing. So don't be scared to just go through several iterations before you start digitizing something, because that in itself is really difficult to just open up Illustrator and draw. Like that
Yeah.
takes a lot of skill, which I definitely don't have.
Well, it seems like you do, so it's obviously playing off
Oh,
very, very well. Do
thank
you
you.
get feedback during the process when you're even if it's for your own things, like if it's during the drawing stage, or do you kind of wait and finish a version and see what people think, or do you kind of ask for advice, or not advice, but like feedback along the way?
Um, it's mostly feedback along the way. So I will send a pencil sketch just to make sure things are sort of in the right place and I've captured all like the scientific messaging needed. However, there are exceptions when I get a client and they just know exactly what they want, and they've drawn the sketch for me, and I can sort of and they more just want an artistic flair to it. Um, so that is really I tend to do. I just go for like a first complete draft in those cases.
Okay. Do you find you are also able to give like suggestions to people? Do you feel you're in a place enough where you can do that now, where you say, well, how you've drawn this is good, but actually, as long as this is still scientifically correct, I think this could portray it a little nicer.
Yeah, I do. I love putting my artistic flair onto things. Yeah, so for sure. I guess there's like little nuances in there as well. Like sometimes people will just pick a color that doesn't match with another color, and it just doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. So I might ask if they don't mind changing colors around. Um,
Okay.
the general design, I guess I guess it comes down to what the client wants. Sometimes they're really rigid, like they know exactly what they want it to look like. And sometimes I've had one client who pretty much gave me no pointers at all other than in words, which I really enjoyed that. That was a true challenge. So I had
Oh, okay.
full creative um control there on what the end product looked like.
Wow. So yeah, so it's really very, very varied, just per job, per figure as well.
Y- Yeah, you honestly you don't know what you're going to get, and sometimes I'm really in the mood for someone telling me exactly what to do. So I do
Okay.
like it when those commissions come through. Um, but others like I do like the challenge as well. It's like it's really rewarding at the end when it finally clicks and you're like, ah, this is exactly how it should look like, and it
Yeah.
matches all the science. Um, yeah.
So one thing that probably a lot of people don't consider, but I know it's something that you obviously consider as well, and maybe it's something you advise on, is accessibility of figures. And so when we talk about that, we're talking about, bearing in mind people, say, with various levels of, say, color blindness or just eyesight conditions. So whether that's different hues or shading or patterns that have. So is that something that you found you've had to, say advise on or say to people, well, actually, using, say, maybe this doesn't work best for it to be an accessible figure.
Yeah, that's for sure. So there's the general rule of thumb, like don't mix red and green together. That's hard for colorblind people to see. Um, you can also just go online and get color palettes yourself, and that's something that I found really useful. I have a friend who's colorblind as well, so if I'm really unsure if a figure is accessible or not, I'll just run it through her. And she's been
Oh,
really
wow.
good.
Okay.
So, and there's also little things like um, changing symbols as well, like not just having colors to represent something. If there's a bit of a mix as well, that helps with accessibility.
Yeah, so yes, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I'm sure I've seen an app before which has it's like multiple panes and it's almost like a camera view and it can show how different, say, levels of, say, of color blindness actually view something. So you could
Oh
draw
yeah,
something out, paint something, and look at how it's viewed to different people.
yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember what it's called as well. But yeah, things like that are so useful.
Yeah, so it's something for people to always bearing in mind for any form of sketch and illustration, particularly if they're sharing it in places or putting it in papers, is I think it feels like more effort than it's worth, but once if you know it and preempt it, then
Mhm.
actually it's no more efforts to bear those things in mind and to save those resources somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. You just get used to avoiding certain colors together, and yeah, eventually it becomes second nature.
Yeah. Well, it's good. See, these are all really, really good pointers and also advice for people. So, kind of taking a bit of a step back. For example, I discovered your work through social media, through your page, which, if anybody's curious, on Instagram, geology_talk. And so you started. I can't remember what stage you started this, but you were just sharing your sketches in the field, and usually with kind of your sketch in the foreground and then the outcrop or something behind it. So I'd be curious to
Yeah.
see what was kind of your decision to start sharing that kind of content and how that grew.
So I guess going back to what I said at the beginning, it was a bit of a lag between finishing my undergrad and starting my masters, and I just started doodling any geology related sketches that I could think of. Some were like really scientifically accurate, and some were, I suppose, scientifically absurd. They just wouldn't be
Abstract and
possible. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, very abstract. Um, so there was. I did that before starting my masters, and then the ones that you've just said where I've done a field sketch and then you can see what I've sketched in the background. That was usually when I was on demonstrating field trips for undergrads.
Ah,
So if people don't know, demonstrating is just like a teaching assistant that you do at a university when you're a postgrad. Um, but yeah, there would be like if we were on a week residency, we would be quite involved for the first few days, and then we encourage them to have independency. And then at that moment, I'm like, well, what do I do? Like now I'm sort of out of a job. And so I would just go and sit on like a little rock outcrop and sketch one across the valley or one nearby. And it did mean that I had more than usual to sketch a rock. Usually, as an
mhm.
undergrad, you're told not to sit around and like make it artistic. Really, but I love that. I love actually putting an artistic flair on it and making it look how it actually appears in real life.
Yeah. And then what was your kind of decision, I guess, to put that out there in the world? Because sometimes art can be a very, very personal thing that you want, that you keep to yourself. It's something that grounds you, it calms you, but it's something, it can be, it's quite a brave step forward to share some of the artwork online, particularly in the first instance.
Yeah, because you never know how it's going to be received, I suppose. But I did have a friend who had an Instagram page that was just um all about geology. She was called Yorkshire underscore geologist. She's not
Yes.
on it so much at the moment because I think she's got a full-time job doing something different. But that made me want to post geology related stuff as well, and that included some of my artwork. And I did find whenever I uploaded a picture that included art, it was really well loved, and that was such a nice feeling. Um,
Yeah.
it just made me want to carry on doing more. Like it opened up like a whole community of geo art loving scientists and people. So yeah, it went from there.
Because I definitely saw an explosion of it, probably around a similar time to when you began, and those couple of years either side is whether it was, say, you being influenced by someone or other people's being influenced by you or by others, and that I just saw this spattering of new pages start to pop up of people sharing their artistic interpretations in the field, sometimes as field sketches, sometimes as painting, oils, watercolors, abstract interpretation as well. It doesn't always have to be scientific sketching and illustration. There's so many different ways that we can display and interpret art and nature.
Yeah, and I think if you've come from the side, if you're like part of the audience and you've come from a science background, it's just really cool to see what like your knowledge on paper, and it's like a nice collectible thing as well. Um, and it's such a lovely community, especially on Instagram. There's a few artists on there, and I feel like we're all really supportive of each other, and we do different things as well. There's someone on Instagram who is in textiles, and she's really inspired by um like rock textures, and like she so she'll make like scarves and bags and like out of textures that look like granite, and it's that's beautiful in itself. And yeah, I feel like you just as a geologist as well, like I just want stuff like that. That's like the cool stuff to buy.
So this is the thing. Well, what we need is more merchandise, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need more merch. We need more swag. So if anybody's in the physical, hands-on creative industry, then absolutely.
Oh yeah. It could really. I mean, it is catching on now, but if they were going to mass produce it, I think it would absolutely catch on.
VolcaKnowledge is proud to be sponsored by John Wainwright & Co. through Wainwright Aggregates, and Brunton, Wyoming, making the world's most reliable compasses, professional transits and navigational tools. Since founding in 1891, John Wainwright & Co. are one of Southwest England's largest independent quarrying companies. As well as extracting and processing premium basalt from their quarry in Somerset, they produce construction materials and operate a successful contracting division. Let's hear from some of their employees.
I'm Ben Foyle. I am the Biotech Assistant Plant Manager. I run the day-to-day running of the plant to make sure everything is suitable for production and goes out according to schedule. VolcaKnowledge is a cold-laid asphalt, which means when you put it together with water, it reacts and goes hard. You can use it on pathways, roads. It's not like normal asphalt which falls apart. This is reactive with water. I have also worked in the laboratory here at John Wainwright's for the last 10 years and enjoyed it immensely, and that has led me to move on to the VolcaKnowledge plant and help them with their technical issues. We do our best to deliver a quality product for our customers, and that helps us to work with some quality production operatives that we do have here at VolcaKnowledge at John Wainwright's. I think there's a good gap in the market for young talent to come through in this industry. I think it'll be well received.
So we've talked about, say your research background, academic background, and then like sharing art. And so we've touched a bit on your work as an illustrator, but what was that switch for you that made you decide, because you're still, as you said before, you're still finishing up your PhD, but you are currently also part-time science illustrating for clients and commissioning work. So what was that decision and that process?
So a couple of years ago, um, I I recognized that it was a job. So that was the very first step. Um, and um, then I did a lot of drawings for free for my not I guess exactly for free, but for my supervisor. I did a lot of drawings for him, and the currency, I guess, was co-authorship, which
Hmm.
as a PhD student is a pretty good deal. Um, and so and seeing how figures are received in the review process as well was really great insider knowledge. And then someone asked me to do a figure for them for one of their papers because they felt like they really couldn't visualize what it would look like themselves. So I did that, and then I saw that there's something called an art editor at uh, the Springer Nature journals, where they employ people permanently as illustrators and art editors, and so yeah, that was a bit of a push into going and doing this as a job. And another big thing was I knew I always wanted to, but in my head I was like, oh, I'll do that in like 10 years time. Like that can be my 10 years plan.
Okay.
But I'm like, actually, I should just do it now. Like why wait? Like I feel like I'm still in the scientific sphere and it makes sense. Like I've got all these connections with people. Um, so yeah, it just made sense.
Yeah, so and I guess your background in research is very much physical volcanology and volcanic processes. So has all the illustration you've done to date been purely for volcanic schematics and sketches, or have you been asked to do anything external to that at this stage?
It actually really is just volcanology and earth science related at the moment. I would love to branch out and do different types. I know medical illustration is like a really hot topic and always like
Yeah,
really needed. Um, so I'd love to one day branch out into that. But yeah,
that
so
would
far
be
just
that would be interesting, I guess. Would do you think? I'm curious, from your own perspective, do you think you'd still be able to do it without say that detailed medical knowledge? Do you think branching out into other fields is you might have picked up from what say people have sent you a sketch and saying, can you draw this? And maybe you don't always fully understand what's happening. So if you can do that even within your own field, is that what makes you think it's possible to do it with another field entirely?
yeah, for sure. So exactly that, and you can when I guess being a researcher, there's still, even in your own topic, there's still so much you don't know, right? So you always have to Google little bits and bobs. But yeah, I feel like I could get a basic knowledge and um, of a science in a different field and go from there with like a good preliminary sketch for maybe like a client would help as well.
Yes. Yeah, so that probably going into external fields, that's when you'd want that sketch and not just something in words, like a detailed, I don't know, enzyme catalyst process
Oh
without
yeah.
an illustration to go alongside it.
Yeah, I'm not that clued up on biology, I've got to say.
But as you said, there's such a rich field. So for you getting into it, it sounded like you really did just kind of say to yourself, go for it. Was there any sense of kind of like imposter syndrome to start off with it, and how did you kind of get around that?
Yeah, always, and still is, the imposter syndrome. I think I think it's just reassuring yourself that you are good enough at doing something. Like there's people that um want to work with you as well, like trying to reassure myself about that. Um and also I try and look at it as like I've joined a bit of a club. There's lots of
Hmm.
people who do freelance illustration, and I think we all go through the same struggles. Um and following people online as well, and that that really helps with just feeling like I don't belong, especially coming from quite a hardcore science background and having no
Yes.
graphic design qualification.
Yes, I think it's just really nice to share that message because we're always trying to explore the other avenues of, careers and jobs that we can go into when we have academic backgrounds, particularly when you've got to the stage of, say, postgraduate education and you've spent so much time on a niche area of research. And I think a lot of people get to this bottleneck, say, at the end of their master's or a PhD, where they've been doing something so niche with such, niche techniques that they find it hard to maybe to see the other side of the bottleneck and the opportunities out there. So it's nice from your perspective to hear that there were skills that you hadn't picked up, but graphic design, and you applied it and you went away and learned it because it was something you were passionate about, and now it's opened up just how
Mm.
many different avenues.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think if you're finishing a master's or a PhD, you feel like you've got to a certain point of like expertise, and like you feel like that's where you have to go from. But really, like whatever you do next, you're going to be learning. It's going to be something new, and uh, yeah, yeah.
It's really really rewarding for me as well to see the things that people have pushed themselves into, particularly um over the last few years since like pandemic and coming out, and particularly for geologists not being able to go into the field and exploring new ways of, say, delivering digital teaching, so and then digitally sketching or sharing field work through past experiences, or as your example, I'm not sure what your the timings were, but being able to share your artwork, say, over that period of lockdowns and pandemics, so people could still feel engaged with the field.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that was a tough time for anyone in any profession, but doing something like that is connects us all a bit more in a way, I suppose, even
Yeah.
out of a lockdown or um yeah.
So when it comes to scientific illustration, is there, if for somebody in any area of STEM, because we've talked about volcanology and geology, of course, but this kind of field we talked about medical as well applies to all fields. For somebody interested in the area, do you have any kind of advice for someone maybe wanting to kickstart, or just how they want to think about it to start off?
I guess again, if it's something you want to do, like go for it, and put as much time and energy as you want. Make opportunities for yourself as well. I mean, social media is great for that. If you just share your artwork, I will share artwork that's not for sale, and people will be like, "Oh, can are you going to do any prints of this? Like, I really love this." And
Mm.
unfortunately, in some cases, I can't because it's gone into a scientific paper, and there's lots of legalities with
Yeah.
selling art that's like now a public domain. So yeah, just really try to put yourself out there as well. It's a bit daunting at the beginning, but you'll very likely like build up an audience and the people that will like follow you along the way, and then they become familiar with your work, you're familiar with them. Yeah, just I'd just say really go for it, and don't, you will feel nervous, but try not to.
Yeah, as you say, it sounds like the critical thing is building a network and community, even if that's not at the very beginning putting yourself out there completely public on social media, say, but through your own friends or other people that you follow. It's just so important. One, for feedback and advice, but also just to have that support.
Yeah, you never know where things will lead to as well. Um there's so many niche things in every single like career, and things that you won't have heard of. So that like there's, for artists, you can do artists in residencies. There's workshops that you can do. And you might even like get to a stage where you're invited to do it because you've like got such a wide online portfolio. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, like that's is something that if you're starting out, I would focus on like slowly building up.
Yeah, as you say, it's important for people to look out for their local opportunities as well as online. So if you have various workshops that you can go to, gatherings, artistic communities, then as you say, everybody has can have such a niche. Like for you, there's not many people out there that are doing volcanic, scientific volcanic illustration. So have you been to any events like that yourself, where you've gone, say, an artistic workshop and said, "This is what I do"?
I haven't. That is definitely something for the future. I will admit I have just applied to an artist in residency position for next year. So
Oh, amazing.
I guess if I don't get it, you'll know. But that's all part of the fun, isn't it? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, I definitely would. I'd love to branch out and do workshops. There's some people that go into the field and take people with, and they do watercolor paints on. They'll paint rocks with watercolor paints. There's a workshop I'm aware of where you sit down and draw rocks together. It just feels really um really cathartic. Like just
yeah,
like lovely, like right up my street to just sort of like have a bit of downtime, but also like doing something that's like stimulating your brain at the same time.
yeah. And something for
Um,
people to remember as well is that you don't. It's not always. It doesn't always have to be in the great out beyond. Urban geology is potentially even more accessible to a lot of people. So you could even do this around your local city because there's always
oh, for
rocks.
sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always catch myself like sometimes if I'm at a shopping centre, I'll like be staring at the ground because I'm like, oh my God, that's such a beautiful ammonite, and it's right there, and everyone's just walking past it. Why is no one like gonna notice like this gorgeous fossil?
You're just grabbing people around you, saying, "Stop what you're doing and engage with the world around you."
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's a really good point. And buildings as well. Sometimes buildings will be like made out of volcanic rocks where you can see the crystals really clearly. That's always nice to spot. So yeah, you that's such a good point.
Yeah, so there we go. There's kind of one of our final messages to everybody. Look at the buildings around you and stop in the middle of your shopping centres and look at the ground.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your insights into this field, and hopefully for some people just opening up possible different career prospects and to follow your artistic creative hobbies and passions, because it can actually lead to something viable. This is not just it's not always something for, say, for publishers and illustrations for journals, but also the media. More and more, I see, these really high quality articles, like interactive news articles that you find. It's like a special issue, and you open it up, and they've hired an illustrator, and you can kind of scroll through, and bits of text are appearing alongside images and animations. So it goes
Oh yeah.
beyond, the world of academia as well.
Yeah, they are so beautiful as well. exactly. You just never know what might come your way if you just go for it, really.
Yeah, because outside of that, then you've also got book illustration, textbook illustration, children's book illustration. There's so many different areas it could lead into. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing those kind of, I guess, passions and all, and hopefully encouragements for people as well.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I would love to see like a rise, like an increase of geo artists as well. It's it's I don't think it's too niche because like a lot of artists are inspired by nature and geology is just the world around us. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, let's keep building that community as well. So to wrap things up, a favorite, kind of steering back to volcanoes now in our central messaging, have you got a volcanic memory you'd like to share with everybody today?
okay, yeah, I do have this. There is quite a few. Having done a PhD in volcanology, but there's one specifically that whenever I think about it, it just makes me giggle so much. It's ridiculous that this happened. But I was in
Okay.
okay, yeah, so here we go. I was in a I was on a field trip with a bunch of master's students, and we were in California in a place called Owens Valley, Long Valley Caldera, and I occasionally would go off on my own and do solo field work. Um, and I was at this specific spot called Panem Dome. It's gorgeous if you want to go visit. And I was looking for an associated ashfall deposit, which I knew was there because the literature told me it was there, but I couldn't figure out which like layer of the surroundings it was. So one day I packed up my hire car and I had borrowed a big shovel from the research center that I was saying, and I was like, I'm just gonna go for a walk and see if I can find it, and then I'll start digging, and we'll just go from there. Long story short, I couldn't find it, and I had to like walk through quite it is a very isolated area, and it's like deserty type surroundings, and I was like, I'm just gonna meet the road and walk back to the hire car and move on and do something else with my time. And I can't stress enough that it is like in the middle of nowhere, and I have like a shovel over my shoulder and a bottle of water and like my field notebook, and that's all I'm carrying. I look a bit. It started to dawn on me that I look a bit weird, and I was like, no matter, like, who's no one's gonna drive by, like it's fine, like middle of nowhere. Then in the distance, I hear like a rumbling of tires, and I'm like, oh no, it's fine. They'll probably park up like further back. But it kept getting closer and closer. And then the car started to slow down. So I look over my shoulder and it's the sheriff. And I'm like, oh no. I
You look like you're
honestly,
out here prospecting for gold.
yeah, or worse. Like I just like buried a body. Like it looked so bad. And so I had to explain to him who I was, what I was doing. Even that sounded a little bit weird. Like I'm looking for Ash. Like um and and I thought, oh my god, no one's gonna believe this. So I asked if I could take a selfie with him. And at the end of
Oh,
every day, when I would send a message back to people staying at the research center to let them know everything was okay and I was on my way back. And on that particular day, I decided just to send the selfie with the sheriff, like to let them know that I was okay and possibly going to jail.
yeah. Well, well, I'm glad the sheriff was very receptive to the selfie and not for locking you up. It's like, where's Annabelle? She didn't come back tonight. Oh, she's in the local county jail.
Exactly. Yeah. it, oh god, I couldn't believe it. Like I can't stress enough how deserted this place was, and to sort of run into the sheriff with nothing but a shovel.
It's very Breaking Bad. Otherwise,
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it? Like the opening scene to Breaking Bad.
yeah.
But
Well, on that note, I think that's probably one of the more unique volcanic memories that's been shared. So thank you for that.
oh, you're welcome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Annabelle. That's put a big smile on my face to finish up the talk. It's been really, really good to hear your insights into this field. And like I said, to anybody watching, if you want to check out any of Annabelle's work, please head over to Instagram and have a look at geology_talk. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us today, Annabelle.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. And it's lovely to talk about something that I feel quite passionate about.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening. See you next time. Thanks for tuning in for this episode of VolcaKnowledge. Remember, you can catch all of our previous episodes either through our website, www.volcanology.com, or you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you stream your favourite podcasts. You can also watch all of our episodes on our YouTube channel, VolcaKnowledge, and don't forget to sign up to our social media channels at VolcaKnowledge through Instagram and Blue Sky. Please leave us any feedback and comments and topics maybe you want to see on a future episode. Thank you for joining, and see you next time.